Mr. Chairman,
Hello.
welcome to Of the People. I'm surprised you're up because I know you have been burning the midnight oil or the candle at both ends. How's it going?
It's going really well. We're assessing the numbers, what it means, dividing up the delegates. We've got some math to do on the delegate count, but we only have 22 delegates. It looks like, maybe 12 to 10 or 13 to 9. Not sure exactly on the math, but all that cleanup's happening today now.
And are 100% of the precincts reported, or what percentage is in right now?
Last night it was 91% when everybody went to bed. I believe it's 100. I talked to the Secretary of State about noontime, and they had all the numbers they needed. We have a law basically that says you can't stop counting until you're done. So even these towns that had to hand count on the write-ins, you can't leave until you're done. It's not like Georgia where you go home, there's a water burst, and all of a sudden you find boxes. That doesn't happen. Yeah.
Right.
All night. Totally
New Hampshire's first in the nation and should set the example.
Yeah, so does that mean, Chairman Ager, for the Democrats, my understanding is they wrote in Joe Biden. So that means it's going to take even longer for them because they're having to do all the write-in candidates.
Yeah, it did take a little bit longer, but it didn't take much longer. We know how to do this. We have paper ballots, 100% paper ballots, and the moderators at each polling site, they're like the king or queen of their polling site. They decide how things are done. And there's a great cast of volunteers in the state. So they grab those ballots, they count them in stacks of 25. So first they sort them and then they stack them. So they sort them, count by 25, stack them, and then they count the stacks of 25. And everybody has to nod their head in agreement on the count before they tally it. It really doesn't take that long. And we also have a what's called scatter, where everybody who gets, there's a handful of Mickey Mouse, Bozo, Clark Kent, whoever, and those every single vote is counted. And there might even have been a Robert Chernin in there. You never know.
Well, that's because I wrote in my name. You know how much I crave notoriety. But you know what the moral of the story here is, Mr. Chairman? Contrary to what we have been led to believe, Democrats actually know how to count when they're forced to.
They do, but we always have Republicans here over their shoulder.
That's right. That's right.
So I have a question for you, because a lot of people, obviously last night, everyone's phone is blowing up with who's texting whom. Can you quickly explain to the listeners, because this is not only New Hampshire radio, but we're certainly, we're out nationally on podcast, is the open primary system in New Hampshire. And I've explained it to people, but I think I'm a little wordy, and they want to understand how someone who is an independent can then cast a vote in the Republican primary and then still be an independent. And then the question is, how many independents voted? I mean, if you can get into that a little bit, because I think that's really, most people outside New Hampshire don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got about I'll round the numbers off, approximately 1 million voters in the state. 30% are Democrat, 30% Republican, 40% are what we call undeclared. So they're voters, but they're not a declared party member, Republican or Democrat. The Democrats can vote in the Democrat primary, Republicans vote in the Republican primary. The undeclared 40% can vote in either primary. And so by October 7th, which is about a week before the candidates can start filing, voters have to declare, are you Republican, Democrat, or undeclared? You can change at that point. So you can go from a Democrat to a Republican before October 7th. After that, you stay the party that you are.
So a month before election, you could change party affiliation. Roughly.
It's
2 months. Well, October, November, December. 3 months.
So it's before filing.
Okay.
Before the primary, not the general. Yep. Got it.
In this case, about 3 months. So, but you also have people who've moved into the state or people who've never registered. After that, whatever they register is what they are. So somebody could have moved into the state January 1st and said, I want to be a Democrat, Republican, or undeclared, and that's what they are for the election. Right up until same day registration. So the day of the election, somebody new to the state or who's never voted before could walk in and say, hey, I'm here. Here's my ID. Verify that they are a New Hampshire domicile. They get to vote. So that undeclared list, they walk in and they declare for a party as they walk into the voting booth. So they say, hey, I'm an undeclared voter. I want to be a Republican for this election. I'm going to take a Republican ballot. They are then a Republican. They go in and vote. On the way out, there's a table. If they want to go back to being undeclared, they wait in line and say, I just voted. I'm a Republican. Now I want to go back to being undeclared. Anybody can do that.
Goodness.
So they can go back to undeclared.
So that's how all these folks are basically going in, voting for Nikki Haley to try to mess up the Republican primary, and then they can just leave and not have any future consequences for it. Basically,
right.
As a voter.
By the way, it also explains those school buses I saw coming in with bringing people over from Massachusetts. They were sleeping in the school buses for residency. Now I get it.
Yeah, I didn't see any school buses, but my eyesight may not be as good as yours.
I'm kidding.
I know. Yeah, it's of course. Yeah. So this system has been in place for over 40 years. Donald Trump has won 3 primaries with this system in place. In 2016, it more than likely benefited him because he was the outsider. He was getting the undeclared, the independent vote. He was getting those first-time voters who'd never voted before, who came in on election day and said, I really like this guy. He's different. He's a maverick. Says it like it is. He's not beholden to the Washington establishment or big money. All of those people, it benefited Donald Trump in 2016. He won. This year, it likely benefited Nikki Haley. And so for my Trump friends who go, this system is great. Guys, it helped your guy. It helped our guy in 2016. Might have helped Nikki Haley a little bit, but he still won by double digits. What are you bitching about? It works. It's a great system. It also attracted a lot of people to the Republican Party who did not go back to undeclared. And so we saw that in several of the polling sites. In one of the polling sites, 1/3 of the undeclared people who came in left as Republicans and stayed Republicans. And so it also helps us in the general election because now, instead of saying those undeclared, or independent people, we don't want you in the party. You're not conservative enough. You're not Republican enough. We're saying, no, come into our party. We want you to come in. We're going to educate you on why our policies are great. You voted for one of our people, and now your muscle memory it goes to that little R box, right next to that Republican guy. And your muscle memory goes there. Okay, keep it going there in November. Let's go. So we're bringing people in, and this system actually works pretty well. It's worked very well for us in the past. I don't see any reason to change it. And look, I get the Trump campaigns, kind of, okay, let's set it up in case we lose. We're going to blame all these undeclared. It was trying to trickery.
Right.
Hey, we got a great system. It allows people to pick who they want. And it also live free or die. People are like, what? You're going to make me put a little R by my name for a whole year if I don't feel like it? No, baloney. I want to go. I'm going to vote for who I want to vote for. I'm going to pick the ballot I want to vote. Let me go to my workplace and not be harassed by my teachers union or people who are coming to my business establishment. They look you up. Oh, this is a Republican and Democrat. I'm going to call say, forget about that. If you want to stay undeclared, that's fine with us, but if you pick a Republican ballot, we want your muscle memory to remember, I voted for a Republican. It felt really good. I left there with a smile on my face. Man, isn't voting Republican cool? And do it again and again and again. That's what we want.
Amen.
So, I'm sorry, Chris. I would argue that not only First in the Nation creates that participation level in the electorate in New Hampshire, but it is also the open primary, right? People can, because I'm not even sure that the 40% vote for parties, they vote for people, and therefore they engage in what you and I would call retail politics, which they like and they take pride in. And I would argue, and I came out of New Jersey, obviously, which is sort of the Tammany Hall Redux, right? It's the state machine in New Jersey on both sides. But the voters in New Hampshire are probably some of the most engaged, most informed electorate that in my 35 years in politics that I've come across. So, I think the open primary system, as much as it's hard to understand to outsiders, creates that environment. I got one question before we finish up here, which is predictions on two things. When does Nikki Haley get out? Okay, I'm not setting you up on that. And who's the VP candidate for Donald Trump?
Ooh.
Okay, so
Speculation.
when does Nikki get out? I don't think she's going to get out today, but it could be it could be before South Carolina. It could be. I use this word. I overuse this word. They have to reassess, what they think is going to happen. And I'm a big believer. If she thinks that she can win, I would say you owe it to stay in. If you think you can win,
right? If there's a path.
If there's a way to win, and we don't want people to get into presidential politics who, at the first sign of, something a little bit went wrong, they run away. Oh, uncle. She did relatively well here. 44% of the vote against former president who's a dynamic personality he's got his own gravity around him. That's how much interest and excitement's there. So
who's VP? Who's VP?
Well. If she thinks VP, if we take out political correctness, it's Mike Pompeo. If we take out political correctness and identity politics, Mike Pompeo.
I love Mike
maybe
Pompeo.
Maybe the smartest person.
Yeah.
And if the president went down for whatever reason, steps right in, you do not miss a beat. I mean, the guy knows his stuff. He knows everybody around the world that matters. He knows how the government works. Very high intellect, just smart, solid person. But in the world of identity politics and DEI and LMNOP, it's probably have to be a minority. And so you go, okay, let's take out the most qualified guy. Let's take out the most qualified person, and let's find somebody that fits demographics that we need. And then you're looking at maybe a governor would be great. Maybe a female governor. There's a few of them out there.
There are a couple.
Someone with executive experience.
You got Kim Reynolds, but she endorsed DeSantis. Less likely. She's a great governor in Iowa. You got Kristi Noem, who has been a lot of speculation. I think some people are kind of looking towards Kristi Noem. She's been to the state a few times, and she's been campaigning for President Trump. So she could be that type of person. So I'd say right now I give a handicap towards Kristi Noem.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day, especially after the primary hangover that you probably have after last night. Love to, as always, have you back on as we figure out New Hampshire's role going forward into the general, right, with the rest of the primary play out. But thank you so much for joining us, especially on such short notice and probably even shorter sleep.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks. Well, I'm going to go back to take a nap now. So appreciate it.
Love the Vermont flannel, by the way.
I did that's right. For you. I've been in a suit for the last week. So this feels really good.
Looks comfy. Thank you so much again, Mr. Chairman.